speaking of, in particular, Netflix docuseries that you've been working on, Diddy Do It.
Right.
You've been saying for years that you feel you knew Diddy's character.
Right.
Yet you said you weren't a part of that lifestyle. You weren't going to the party.
Real from the front line, you know what I'm saying? It's wicked, wicked, wicked. So you be careful.
Yeah.
We can't do nothing if they, you know what I'm saying? I need you out there, you feel me?
Yeah. I hear you. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Man, have some.
You think I wasn't gonna get at you from the inside?
He has reached out to a witness, an alleged participant in multiple freak-offs.
Then why Oprah staying quiet? Why Ellen moving to another country?
And he's asking people to intimidate witnesses or pay people off.
Very good. Oh, you put that thing on the wall. So you see how we do it here on the Saturday, just as well as you see how we do it here on the Saturday, just as well as
Who is Sean approved from the world of entertainment?
There's only one person.
Oh, go on.
And I call him Sean. That's Jay-Z. We call each other Sean.
Okay.
Yeah. Nobody else could call me Sean.
He's the only person who's Sean approved.
There's not a single person that
outside of family.
That should be outside of my mother.
Okay, just
they should be calling me. Yeah, they should be calling me Sean.
The internet didn't just wake up to drama this time. It woke up to silence, and silence is always the loudest sound when legends are involved. 1 minute, 50 Cent is doing what 50 Cent does best, stirring the pot with the confidence of a man who sleeps next to receipts. The next minute, alleged private messages involving Diddy start circulating, and suddenly Jay-Z goes quiet, not busy. Not unavailable. Quiet like the lights just shut off in a mansion nobody's supposed to talk about. This wasn't a slow leak, it was a pressure burst. Screenshots, captions, cryptic posts, and that familiar feeling that something behind the velvet rope just slipped out. 50 didn't tease, he didn't hint. He dropped the energy of a man who knows exactly how the internet works. And the moment those alleged messages hit the timeline, fans noticed something even stranger than the leak itself. Jay-Z's voice disappeared. No statements. No slick quotes. No calm billionaire energy reminding everyone he's above the noise. Just absence. And in hip-hop, absence is never accidental. This is the kind of moment that makes reality TV look underwritten and makes conspiracy theorists stretch before typing. Because when one mogul leaks and another goes silent, the question isn't what happened, it's what haven't we seen yet. The moment those alleged messages hit the timeline, the atmosphere shifted like somebody cracked a window in a sealed room full of smoke. 50 Cent didn't roll it out with a press release or a carefully worded caption. He dropped it with the casual menace of a man who knows exactly how panic travels online. And right on cue, the internet noticed something even more unsettling than the leak itself. Jay-Z went quiet. Not laying low, not focused on business. Quiet like the playlist stopped mid-song. To understand why this landed the way you have to understand the players? 50 Cent has made a second career out of weaponized humor, turning captions into grenades and receipts into sport. Diddy, long wrapped in an aura of power, influence, and behind-the-scenes reach, has spent decades cultivating mystery as a brand strategy. And Jay-Z doesn't scramble. He doesn't rush statements. He doesn't respond to noise. Which is exactly why his silence felt different this time. The alleged messages were framed like a window into conversations nobody was supposed to see. Not polished public-facing quotes, not PR-friendly sound bites, but the kind of private exchanges that feel unguarded. Whether real, exaggerated, or selectively presented, they carried the scent of something off-limits. The internet doesn't need proof to react, it needs implication. And implication showed up dressed for a gala. The first reactions were pure chaos. Fans screenshotted, zoomed, re-uploaded, and argued over tone like they were decoding ancient texts. Every emoji was dissected. Every line was debated. Some people laughed because 50's posts always invite humor. Others went cold because humor evaporates when power dynamics enter the room. The comment section split instantly between "this is classic 50 trolling" and "this feels way too specific to be random." What made the situation combust wasn't just the content, it was the timing. The hip-hop world has been hypersensitive. Lately, primed for revelations, suspicious of silence, and addicted to patterns. So when 50 Cent dropped alleged messages tied to Diddy and Jay-Z's public presence abruptly stalled, the narrative assembled itself. No confirmation needed. The internet filled in the blanks with confidence. Jay-Z's silence became the story. Normally, his absence reads as control. This time, it read as tension. No appearances, no offhand quotes. No social activity that could reassure fans everything was business as usual. In a culture where noise is currency, silence becomes a signal. Flair, people don't ask if it means something. They ask what it means. The sarcasm online went into overdrive, because that's how people cope when power looks exposed. Memes popped up comparing the situation to a mob movie scene where one boss disappears after a meeting that went wrong. Others joked that this made prestige dramas look tame, like someone accidentally aired the wrong episode early. Humor softened the edges, but it didn't erase the unease. Context piled up fast. Old interviews resurfaced. Past collaborations were re-examined. Long-forgotten moments were dragged back into the light and reframed as foreshadowing. Suddenly, every past interaction between these men felt like it had been leading to this moment. The internet loves retroactive prophecy. Once something happens, everything before it gets rewritten as a warning sign. Industry insiders, or at least people claiming to be, started whispering online. Vague posts about things people don't know and conversations coming soon floated through timelines. No names, no details, just enough ambiguity to keep speculation burning. In situations like this, vagueness becomes fuel. It suggests proximity without accountability, and the internet eats it up. The power dynamics made everything feel heavier. These aren't just celebrities trading shots. These are architects of eras, men who shaped sounds, businesses, and narratives. When figures like that get pulled into the same storyline, people don't expect petty drama. They expect tectonic shifts. Even the possibility of private messages leaking suggests fractures where unity was assumed. 50 Cent's posture throughout only amplified the tension. He didn't backpedal. He didn't clarify. He let the posts sit, knowing exactly how silence multiplies attention. That confidence read as either supreme trolling or supreme certainty, and nobody could agree which was more dangerous. In the absence of facts, tone becomes evidence, and 50's tone felt deliberate. Meanwhile, Jay-Z's camp stayed quiet. No denial, no dismissal, no calm billionaire reassurance. Just absence. Fans who are used to his controlled mystique suddenly found that mystique unsettling. When someone known for a strategic silence goes silent during a storm, people stop calling it strategy and start calling it avoidance. Fair or not, perception moves faster than intention. The internet began framing this as a chessboard. Every move or lack of one was interpreted as positioning. 50 posts, Diddy's name trends, Jay-Z disappears from view. People read it like a sequence, not coincidence. Once a pattern is perceived, it becomes canon online. Even if it's built on air. This is where the story crossed from gossip into mythology. It wasn't about whether the messages were verified. It was about what their existence suggested. Private lines crossing public timelines threaten the illusion of control that moguls depend on. When the curtain shakes, audiences assume there's more behind it, even if they can't see clearly. By the end of this phase, one thing was undeniable. The leak, alleged or not, had done its job. It shifted attention, created suspicion, and forced silence to speak louder than words. Jay-Z's quiet became the loudest headline of all. And in an industry built on dominance and image, that kind of quiet never lands softly. Once the silence settled in, the speculation didn't slow down. It mutated. This is the phase where rumor becomes ritual, where the timeline turns into a courtroom with no judge and an unlimited jury. The alleged messages were no longer just posts. They became artifacts. Screenshots were treated like relics, zoomed and reposted with captions that sounded more confident every time they appeared. And the louder the internet got, the quieter Jay-Z seemed to remain, which only made the volume spike. Celebrity reactions poured in the way they always do when something smells expensive and dangerous. not direct responses. Of course, those are too risky, but carefully vague posts that looked innocent until fans connected the dots for them. A lyric choice here, a cryptic quote there, a sudden focus on family caption, and suddenly people were assigning sides like this was a blockbuster crossover nobody asked for but everybody needed. Even neutral energy got drafted into the war. Memes went nuclear, not playful memes, strategic ones. The kind that feel funny until you realize they're sharpening a narrative. Jay-Z was compared to a final boss who disappears right before the raid begins. 50 Cent was framed as the chaotic narrator who knows the ending and keeps pausing the story at the worst moments. Diddy, meanwhile, became the off-screen presence everyone felt but couldn't quite see, like a character whose shadow keeps passing over the frame. Pop culture comparisons flew like confetti. People said this made prestige dramas feel underwritten. Others joked that this was hip-hop's version of a corporate thriller. Except the boardroom had Instagram comments instead of chairs. The exaggeration wasn't accidental. When stakes feel this high, the internet inflates them into mythology. Because myth is easier to digest than uncertainty, the outrage split cleanly down familiar lines. One camp insisted this was classic 50 Cent trolling, a masterclass in stirring chaos without consequences. They argued that Jay-Z's silence was strategic, the calm of a billionaire who refuses to play internet games. The other camp wasn't buying it. They claimed silence at this moment felt calculated in the wrong direction, less control and more containment. In their eyes, quiet wasn't power, it was pressure. Old interviews resurfaced like ghosts with receipts. Clips where Jay-Z talked about loyalty, business, and privacy were replayed with new meaning layered on top. Conversations that once sounded philosophical now sounded defensive. The internet loves revisionist history. Once a new narrative arrives, the past gets rewritten to support it. No matter how much context gets lost along the way, industry chatter escalated, at least according to the internet. Anonymous accounts hinted at things people don't understand yet. Self-proclaimed insiders dropped posts that said nothing and suggested everything. No names, no timelines, just vibes. And vibes, in moments like this, are currency. The less someone says, the more people assume they know. Silence becomes expertise by association. The power dynamics kept the tension high. These aren't artists fighting over chart positions. These are moguls with legacies, alliances, and histories that stretch decades. When figures like that get tangled in the same rumor cycle, people don't expect apologies, they expect aftershocks. Even the suggestion of private conversations. Leaking threatens the illusion of airtight control that empires depend on 0.50 cents. Behavior continued to read like a calculated performance. He didn't clarify. He didn't escalate directly. He let the post breathe, understanding that oxygen feeds speculation. That restraint felt intentional, like a poker player checking while everyone else panicked. Supporters called it genius. Critics called it reckless. Either way, attention stayed glued to him. Jay-Z's continued absence from the conversation became an obsession. Fans tracked appearances, schedules, and movements like this was a missing persons case instead of a media moment. Every non-appearance was logged. Every delayed response was magnified. In a culture addicted to updates, no update becomes the update. People didn't just notice the silence, they narrated it. The commentary ecosystem exploded. Reaction channels churned out videos dissecting the same details from different angles, each one louder than the last. Some claimed neutrality while stacking speculation like bricks. Others leaned fully into conspiracy, connecting dots that may never have been connected in the first place. The performance of certainty mattered more than accuracy, because certainty keeps viewers watching. Public perception began to harden in uncomfortable ways. For some, Jay-Z's silence confirmed long-held suspicions about how power operates behind closed doors. For others, it reinforced admiration proof that he refuses to be dragged into nonsense. The same action, or inaction, fueled opposite conclusions. That's the danger of ambiguity at scale. It doesn't clarify. It polarizes. Meanwhile, Diddy's name continued to hover like static. Not front and center, but present enough to keep tension alive. The alleged messages made people re-examine his public image through a sharper lens. Every past move, every business decision, every public smile got reevaluated. When private communication threatens to go public, reputations start feeling fragile. Even if nothing is confirmed, the internet's appetite didn't slow. If anything, it grew. People refreshed feeds like they were waiting for a sequel trailer to drop. Any hint of movement, any quote, any appearance, any unrelated post was treated like a potential breakthrough. The anticipation itself became addictive. Drama thrives not just on events, but on the promise that something bigger is about to happen. As this phase peaked, one truth became unavoidable. The story was no longer about the alleged messages alone. It was about power, silence, and who controls the narrative when receipts threaten the illusion. Jay-Z's quiet wasn't just a reaction, it was a canvas, and the internet painted all over it with theories, jokes, and certainty. It didn't earn by the end of the stage. The lines were drawn, the audience was invested, and the stakes felt higher than when the leak first appeared. This wasn't resolution. This was escalation. The pressure was building, the spotlight was tightening, and everyone could feel it. Because when legends collide with silence, the fallout never arrives gently. It arrives when nobody's ready. By the time the speculation hit its loudest pitch, the real consequences started settling in quietly, and that's always the most dangerous phase. This is where stories stop being funny, stop being theoretical, and start reshaping how power is perceived. The alleged messages, the silence, the memes, the side eyes, they all fused into a single narrative cloud that refused to disperse. And right in the center of it stood Jay-Z's quiet, no longer mysterious, now interrogated. For Jay-Z, the absence of a response became a defining act, whether intentional or not. Silence has always been part of his brand, a billionaire level. Calm that suggests he operates on a different frequency. But this time, that silence didn't feel elevated, it felt exposed. Fans who once praised his restraint began asking uncomfortable questions. Critics who already distrusted mogul culture treated the quiet like confirmation. In moments like this, silence doesn't protect the narrative. It invites people to rewrite it for you. Public perception shifted in subtle but powerful ways. This wasn't a cancel moment, it was a credibility tremor. People didn't suddenly turn on Jay-Z, but they started squinting harder. Interviews sounded different in hindsight. Lyrics about power, privacy, and control got replayed with new suspicion. When silence follows alleged leaks, it creates a vacuum where meaning rushes in unchecked. Diddy's presence in the story lingered, like unfinished business, even without direct statements. The alleged messages reframed how people talked about him. The aura of untouchability cracked just enough to let doubt seep in. Longtime admirers defended him aggressively, while critics saw this as another crack in a wall they believed was already crumbling. The danger wasn't what was proven. It was what people felt comfortable suspecting. 50 Cent emerged from this phase exactly where he thrives, center stage, smirking through the chaos. Whether people saw him as a genius instigator or a reckless agitator, nobody could deny the impact. He didn't need to say more. He had already done what he set out to do, disrupt the hierarchy. In hip-hop culture, disruption is currency, and 50 cashed in without breaking a sweat. The industry response was telling, not in what was said, but in what wasn't. Invitations stayed vague. Appearances got reshuffled. Conversations moved behind closed doors. When moguls get pulled into the same rumor cycle, the room temperature changes. People don't panic publicly, they reposition privately. That quiet recalibration said more than any tweet ever could. The commentary ecosystem continued milking the moment, but even that began to evolve. The tone shifted from shock to analysis. Less, did you see this? And more, what does this mean? That's when you know a story has crossed into legacy territory. It's no longer about a post or a leak. It's about how power survives scrutiny, or whether it does at all. Fans found themselves divided in an uncomfortable way. Some doubled down on loyalty, insisting this was manufactured chaos designed to distract and destabilize. Others admitted the silence felt off, not damning but unsettling. That discomfort mattered. When audiences stop feeling sure, the myth weakens. Legends survive on certainty, not answers. This moment also reignited a broader conversation about Mughal culture itself. The idea that certain figures operate above consequence, shielded by influence and silence, suddenly felt less solid. People questioned whether privacy should still be untouchable when power reaches that scale. Others warned against turning speculation into conviction. The debate itself became part of the fallout, pulling these figures into cultural conversations they usually control from a distance. What made this chapter linger was its lack of resolution. No denial, no confirmation, no dramatic showdown, just a hanging cord that never resolved. In storytelling, unresolved tension is the most powerful kind because it keeps the audience listening long after the music stops. This wasn't a scandal that burned out. It was a slow burn that rewired perception. As the timeline inevitably moved on to the next controversy, this one didn't disappear. It settled into memory, into reference points, into the way people talk about power behind the scenes. The alleged messages became shorthand. The silence became a case study. The moment didn't need to be revisited constantly to keep working. It just needed to exist. And that's the real aftermath. Not the memes, not the reaction videos, but the subtle shift in how untouchable figures are viewed when silence meets implication. This story didn't knock anyone off a throne, but it shook the floor just enough for people to notice the cracks. In the end, this wasn't about leaked messages alone. It was about who controls the narrative when control slips for even a second. Jay-Z's quiet, Diddy's shadow, 50 Cent's provocation, they combined into a moment that reminded everyone that power doesn't disappear loudly. It erodes quietly, under scrutiny, speculation, and silence. And the most unsettling part is that this still doesn't feel finished. It feels paused. Because in a culture that archives everything and forgets nothing, silence doesn't end stories. It delays them. And this is where we stop pretending this was just internet noise and call it what it really is, a power shift moment wrapped in silence. Alleged messages drop, the timeline explodes, and one of the most calculated voices in hip-hop suddenly says nothing. That's not just drama, that's tension. And tension is never accidental at this level. Now it's your turn to step in. Drop your take in the comments and don't play neutral. Is Jay-Z's silence strategic genius, or does it feel louder than any denial ever could? Did 50 Cent expose cracks in a system built on control, or is this elite-level trolling dressed up as chaos? And then where does Diddy really fit in all of this? The comment section is the real boardroom, and everybody's already negotiating. If this breakdown had you locked in, smash that like button like it owes you money and just try to dodge the bill. It tells the algorithm you want raw breakdowns, not watered-down headlines. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because stories like this don't resolve cleanly, they evolve. The next move always comes when the silence gets uncomfortable. Here, we don't worship legends or cancel them on command. We analyze power, question narratives, and expose how quickly control slips when receipts start floating. New leaks, industry shakeups, and quiet moves behind loud headlines drop constantly, and when they do, this is where they get decoded. Because fame isn't just about money and music, it's about who speaks, who stays quiet, and who controls. The story when everything's on the line. This is Fame Blueprint, where silence is never empty, power always leaves a trail, and the truth hides in what isn't said.